Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Ebendon. I'm going to be doing a Cultist Simulator run through today, but it's not going to be like my usual content. This is going to be a much slower, more casual playthrough. I'm not doing a speedrun or anything. I figured I would just do a normal playthrough from Aspirant to kind of show some people who don't understand how to play this game what to do from the perspective of somebody who is very experienced with this game. I know that this game it's quite obtuse. It's a bit weird and a bit difficult to get into if you don't know what you're doing. Everybody always says, hey, don't watch any guides for Cultist Simulator because it's going to ruin the game, and they're right to a degree. But I know that there's a subsection of people that will never get to experience the fun that is this game if they can never make it past the first 10 minutes. So, I'm going to do a full playthrough. I think I'm going to do a Lantern Ascension. And I'm going to explain, so I'm going to play through pretty slowly, and I'm going to explain everything I'm doing as I do it. So, I'll try to cut this up into a couple of different videos. But yeah, let's get rolling. I actually already tried starting this, and my video recording software was recording at some goofy aspect ratio for some reason. So I'm doing it again. Alright, so, very beginning of the game, I gave myself a name, Ebendon. You start off with this empty table, and you've got a verb, work, and you've got a card, menial employment as a hospital porter. So, the clue right here says, hey, you should put this into work. That's called an aspect. We'll get into that as the game goes on. So the basic way this game works is that you put cards in verbs, and then you click start or hit S, and they will start. I'm not going to go into reading all the lore necessarily. There's plenty of people that do playthroughs where they are exploring the game for the first time and read all the lore, and the lore in this game is fantastic. But this is more a practical walkthrough for people to learn how to actually play the game. So, all right. So, once we do that, once we do our first job, we get fired, and then we get some health, a couple of dollars, a couple of funds, and then we unlock our dream verb. So, there's not a lot you can do at the beginning except work with your health. So we'll go ahead and do that. Right. Working with health is basically do some unskilled labor. So that's exciting, right? Everybody loves unskilled labor. Health is one of your three basic attributes, right? You've got health, you've got passion, which we just got from the dream that we unlocked, and you've got reason, which will be coming up here soon. Okay. Most people say at the beginning of the game that you should upgrade these stats, and they're absolutely right. You definitely want to upgrade your stats, especially if you want to have an easier time in this game. If you don't upgrade your basic stats in the beginning of the game, it just makes everything difficult over time. So this first episode is basically going to be covering up to the point where I have 3 of each of the basic stats. That's my goal. So if you know how to upgrade your stats and you understand the game up to that point, just skip to the second video, and we'll start from there. So I'm not even going to read the bequest that we get until my stats have been leveled up. Right? So, pro tip, you can dream on your fatigued health to make it heal faster. Instead of taking 60 seconds, it will take 30 seconds. Now you notice that after I worked, I got a funds, which got taken by time. I'll explain that in a second. And I also got a vitality. So when you work with health, you usually get a vitality. Sometimes you'll get injured. Not usually at the very beginning of the game, though. But, hey, stuff. So I got my reason and the bequest, which we won't deal with in this episode. Okay, so I napped, and then I recovered my health quicker than it normally would come back, and now I'm going to work again. I want to get 2 vitalities, and the reason for that is, you notice this hint says, hey, I need more, right? So if you add a vitality to a vitality, then you can get some health. Okay, so this right here is time passes. This goes every 60 seconds. This will grab a funds, and if it doesn't grab a funds, it will start giving you hunger. Hunger is bad. Hunger will eat through your health. Basically, you can't afford to feed yourself. That's bad. So right now, basically, we're just going to work to get some additional health. So this is the reason you really need to upgrade your stats, is because when your health is being occupied, right, you can't do anything else health related until this one is done, which is really super annoying. So right now, we're going to go ahead and dream on that fatigued health, and we're going to take our 2 vitalities and study them together. And that's going to unlock our first health upgrade. Okay? Now, there's things I could be doing in parallel right now, but I'm trying to keep this kind of simple for newer players, right? So, you study the 2 vitality together. Those are going to end up giving me an additional health. And they'll give me a skill as well, which the skill I'll explain in a minute, once I get it. Alright, so when I work with health, right, normally, it takes 60 seconds, right, to do unskilled labor. 60 seconds in exchange for 1 funds. And you also notice that the time takes 1 funds every 60 seconds. So unless you're a robot and you can perfectly time working the exact nanosecond that time passes every time, you're playing a losing game, and eventually you're going to die, right? You just will not be able to keep up the funds long enough. So if you're doing nothing but unskilled labor without upgrades, you're on a clock, basically. You're going to die eventually. So now that I've upgraded my health, I have 2 health cards, right? You can tell how many cards you have also by this thing at the bottom, right? I have 2 health cards. And I have a skill, a stronger physique. This card is used in further upgrading my health. It's also used for work. So I'll show how that works here in a second. Right, so I'm going to pause, finish my work. I got another vitality, which is good. And I'm going to dream on that, make it go away. But I have another health, so I can go back to work right away, right? But, like I said, when you work with health, it takes 60 seconds. But if I work with this first skill and my health, it takes 55 seconds. Each skill upgrade you get reduces the time it takes to work by 5 seconds. Which doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually makes it possible for me to not die by doing physical labor at this point. Now, you remember before I put 2 vitality in here to upgrade my health, right? But if I put vitality in here now, it still looks like that would work. But once I get my second vitality, I'll show you what it does. It's not quite the same. Once you've upgraded it once, it changes the way that it works a little bit. So, my health. By the way, I just click on that and hit C to collect all from the cards. You'll do that a lot. I'm not worried about this stuff yet. I'll explain this stuff when it starts to become a little more relevant, or as it becomes dangerous to me. So this vitality right here, right? I'm going to get another one here soon, hopefully, as long as I don't get injured. Sometimes when you do physical labor, you get injured instead of a vitality, which is no fun, right? Okay, so now I have 2 vitality, right? And before, I just did 2 vitality, and that upgraded my health, right? But that's not what's going to happen this time. So I'm going to go ahead and keep working with my health. And you'll see why here in a minute. I'm also going to do fast forward in this game. Because basically you kind of play the game and you pause whenever you need to do something. Especially early in the game when you don't know what you're doing very well. So like every time something finishes, I'll just pause. Get my health back. Hey, contentment. Right. And then, so I got a vitality from working, but this gave me a vitality, a lesson learned, right? So that's different. So when you combine 2 vitalities, now you get this lesson learned vitality, which is 300 second decay on it. So it'll stick around for 5 minutes. And to upgrade your vitality further, or your health further, sorry, you actually need to study the skill, and then you need 2 of these vitality, a lesson learned, for the next upgrade, right? So you can't put normal vitality in there. You have to put the special vitality. And you need more, right? So we want to get another vitality. So we're going to go ahead and work again. Now, this isn't the only way that you can get vitality. One of the reasons that you do health first is, one, because health gets taken the most. Because if you get sick, if sickness comes around, it's going to take your health. If you get injured, you lose your health. And it's also the most important. Like, if you run out of health, it's the easiest to die. So, like, for instance, you see the sickness just came through. Took one of my healths. So now that's going to turn into... Oh, and I got injured. Okay. That's just terrible timing right there. So I actually got sick and injured at the same time. This is actually a good lesson in this game, right? So this kind of thing can happen, right? Now it's like, well, I have no health, right? Because that health that got taken by sickness is going to turn into an affliction. And the health that got taken by my injury, or the health that I used to work, has turned into an injury. So there's two main ways to deal with this. One is to use a vitality with your injury or your sickness, and that will cure it. You dream with it. The other way is to dream with funds. Right? Since it's so easy to get vitalities, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother wasting my money. The worst thing that could happen is I'll have to redo this vitality lesson learned. But this is actually a good lesson in this game. So, patience, especially when you're first playing the game for the first time, is definitely a virtue in this game. You don't need to be in a rush all the time. As long as you're making enough money to keep yourself alive, you don't necessarily need to be going gangbusters to try to get things done, right? Like, if this dies, it dies. If it fades out, that's not a big deal. A lesson learned will turn into a it's going to turn into a regular vitality when it decays away. So it's actually not a total loss. I'm going to pause the stream real quick because I got somebody texting me. Give me 1 second. Okay. I've never actually paused this before, so like the recording. So I hope it doesn't like ruin everything. But all right. So now I've got another vitality. All right. I'm going to go ahead and solve this affliction with this vitality here. Now, you might be wondering, why don't I just use money, right? I could just use money. But I kind of, or especially early in the game, I like to avoid using money because using your money to solve your problems early on can very quickly result in you going super broke. So I just got bad luck with the randomness. That happens, but it's not like it's something you can't deal with. So, and I'll show you how quickly you can get these vitalities back, right? So I'm working with vitality. I'm also studying vitality at the same time. Or health, sorry. I'm working with health, and I'm studying with health. Those are both going to give me a vitality. And this lesson learned decayed back into a regular vitality. Not a big deal, right? So now I got a vitality from that. I got a vitality from that. We'll go ahead and work with health some more. We'll dream on this health to make it not be fatigued anymore. And then something you want to do if you have a bunch of stuff like this is you'll kind of want to look at your timers. Like, for instance, this is 154, 174, 179. Take the ones that have the least amount of time and use those, right? That way you can maximize the odds that you're going to be able to actually use vitality for something down the road. So it wasted a little bit of time, right? But that's because I got unlucky. Not much you can do about that, right? Okay, so now I got another vitality. We're going to go ahead and dream on our health just to get it back quicker. I've got 2 vitalities I can study. And no big deal. Now I'm only going to upgrade the health to level 3 for now. The second skill, so I have 3 health cards. Because I don't want to burn people out on this lesson just watching me upgrade health all the time. So we'll go ahead and start doing our next upgrade, which is going to be Reason after this. Actually, we'll do Passion, because Passion you can do with work. You actually can't upgrade Reason through work, which is pretty annoying. So, okay, this might actually be useful. So I'm actually gonna get a Restlessness here, which is nice. And I'll kind of explain like the game canon as to how that works, right? Basically, that season that came through is called Season of Ambitions, right? My character has no real ambitions right now. He's just trying to survive. Whenever you're not meeting ambitions, like you're not making progress towards ambitions, your character gets frustrated. So you get restlessness, right? And restlessness eventually turns into dread. You know, it's kind of like, you know, if I'm not making any progress towards any of my goals, what is the point of it all? Sort of thing, right? So one of the best ways to get rid of restlessness early on in the game is if you paint, you can use restlessness to make your painting better. So that's usually the easiest way to get rid of restlessness. When it turns into dread, dread is not actually a bad thing in and of itself. It can kill you. If you end up stacking 3 dread when you get a certain season called Bleak Thoughts coming through, you can it can kill you. But it's actually not that hard to deal with once you understand how to deal with it. But we'll get there. But for now, I'm going to use it to fuel my painting. And I got a glimmering for doing that, right? Now, glimmering is basically the same as vitality for passion. Okay? So you use glimmerings to upgrade your passion, just like I'm using vitality to upgrade my health, right? And I'm gonna now the thing is working with your passion does not guarantee glimmerings like working with your health kind of almost guarantees vitality. So I'm actually just going to study my passion. I'm going to read sentimental literature, read some poetry, and I'm going to do that in order to get another glimmering for guaranteed. Because if you study, you're guaranteed to get a glimmering. You don't get anything else, but you get a glimmering, and that's important. So I'm also going to work just because I need money. Right. The best job to work with in the beginning is the reason job, but I'm going to hold off on that just for a second, just for the sake of explanation. So, okay, so vitality. I've got 2 glimmerings. Now we're going to study both glimmerings, and just like with the health, it's going to give us a skill for passion, and it's going to give us an additional passion card, which is quite important. Okay, so since I have this restlessness, I'm actually going to work with my passion. So the restlessness kind of boosts your painting, right? So I'm actually going to use this. So once you use your passion skill, you get these options of things that you can add, right? So I can actually add passion to my painting to try to make more money, essentially, right? And I can actually use things besides just restlessness as inspiration now. So it doesn't have to just be restlessness. I can use fleeting reminiscence. Anything that's an influence I can use. And you can tell a card is an influence because of this symbol right here. Influence, right? These little symbols in the bottom of the description are super, super handy. You will definitely learn to start reading them and pay attention to all this. Right? And we'll cover them as they become pertinent, but when in doubt, read the card, right? Now this one, it says, hey, paints, you can add paints to make more exotic. Honestly, the paints are not useful. At least the basic ones are not. Like, basically this one's saying, hey, if you give it money, it'll upgrade it a little bit, right? So for instance, if you look at this, where's it at? It adds a little 3 lore or ingredient there, right? It was 2, 3. The higher your ingredient level on this, the more money you could potentially make. It's not really worth it to just put money in there. You do get special pigments over time, and there's some really cool stuff you can do with those that we will do in the future. But for the moment, I'm not going to bother. Okay, so we worked with both of our passions. We only got 1 glimmering, which is kind of a bummer. But here's the thing, right? We got Mystique. Now, Mystique is interesting, right? Mystique is a negative thing. There's almost nothing good about Mystique except that... Actually, that's not true. Mystique is kind of like rumors about you, right? So people just drop in your name in passing, right? Like, hey, this guy's up to some shady shit. So the hunters, which are the characters that come around and try to basically prove that you're doing occult shit and throw you in the slammer, they will grab Mystique and they will stick around longer trying to find hard evidence. But Mystique is not in and of itself hard evidence. So there are a couple of hunters that can turn Mystique into hard evidence, but unless you are trying to get those hunters, it's not really likely to happen. Okay, so we'll go ahead and work a little more. Now, one thing, I have no passion, but I could actually work with Mystique, and I'm going to use this fleeting reminiscence as some inspiration, because why not? So this dude is a hunter, right? So he would have grabbed that Mystique reputation aspect, right? So he would have taken that Mystique and stuck around longer. Oh, actually he just did, right? So I just generated more Mystique with 0.3 seconds left, right? So he found this Mystique and he's going to be like, huh. And now somebody's going to be here, right? So this guy, this weird detective, is now going to hang out and be a pain in my neck. Okay. Now, as long as you're generating nothing but Mystique, like in the beginning of the game, they're not really much of a problem. The Mystique just makes them stick around longer. They're going to keep looking, but they're not going to find anything. When you start creating notoriety, that's when it becomes an issue. So you have to be careful once you start generating notoriety. That's when you really have to start paying attention to the hunters. But for now, not really a concern. Okay, so I have 2 glimmerings, right? What I'm going to do to try to generate some more, I'm going to study with my passion, and I'm also going to work with my passion in this Mystique. And I can actually use contentment, right? Contentment is an influence. So I'm going to go ahead and just use that to improve my painting a little bit. And all of this, I'm basically just trying to upgrade my basic stats up to where I have 3 cards. Okay. That's really all this is about right now. So you notice that my health got taken by illness again. So I'm going to have to deal with that. But you don't have to panic. Just pay attention. Like, keep in mind what's going on. Right? So I need to get a vitality, right? This stole my health. It's going to turn into sickness. I have 4 glimmerings now, which is all I need for what I'm trying to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and work with my health to get a vitality, hopefully. Hopefully I don't get injured. If I get injured, then I'm just going to have to burn money. But, you know, that happens. So now I have an affliction. It's not good. Now, what happens with an affliction if you let this decay down to 0 seconds is you will get a decrepitude. And decrepitude is basically permanent. It's a permanent loss of health. Now, I say permanent. It's not actually permanent. There is a way to get it back. And I will actually demonstrate that later in the series. Because I think it's quite cool that you could do this. But in the beginning of the game, it's essentially permanent until you become pretty powerful. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. I like to try to keep my stuff stacked up a little bit, right? Lesson learned. Okay. So I'm working on getting this thing done. I'm also going to go ahead and get my first reason-based job. Now, the reason-based job is, in my opinion, the best job. And this is why. Right? So, find clerical work, right? Use your reason to get a job. Get a job. And now I have a job, right? The nice thing is that this job is its own card, right? It doesn't require me to use reason or passion or health. I just go to the job. Now I can add a reason to improve my job, but I don't want to do that yet. And the reason why is when you get promoted in this job, you'll start making more money, but it also requires you to burn through your reason to do so. And if you don't have a bunch of reason cards at your disposal, it can make your life quite difficult early on. So I don't upgrade the job, the clerical job, until I have at least 2 reason, at a minimum. Okay. Alright, so now I have 2 lessons learned here. We're going to go ahead and upgrade our passion again. So, this job is basically exactly spending time for dollars. It's actually quite easy. So you have 90 seconds to use this card again. And it takes 60 seconds and you get a coin. That's it. That's as complicated as that job is. You just have to remember to keep putting it back in there. Hey, contentment for free. Okay, so here's a neat trick, as Anakin Skywalker would have said. Dread will kill you eventually, right? Contentment counteracts it when that season comes through, but if you have nothing to do with your dream, and you have both of these cards, you can actually counteract the dread immediately with a contentment. So you can just dream about dread with contentment, and it will make them both go away. Now, as a warning, you want to be careful about doing this if you're getting close to dying to dread, because this burns 60 seconds of your dream. Whereas to create a new contentment with opium, which we'll get into, only takes 30 seconds. So if you have 3 out of 3 dread in the bleak thoughts coming through, and you start dreaming on a dread with a contentment, and you have no way to create more contentment, you can just end up dying. So it'll make more sense when that situation comes up, which it probably will at some point. I'll explain it at that time. But just know that is a thing, right? So I'm going to start studying with my reason to create erudition. Erudition is basically vitality or glimmerings for reason. Reason is the hardest one to upgrade because there's not that many good ways to create erudition. There's a couple of places in the Mansis that can create erudition. Sometimes there's some books that create erudition. But for the most part, you just have to study reason to get erudition. And you can also hope that you get the special event when you study that gives you erudition. But that doesn't happen. So when you work with health, you get vitality. When you work with passion, you get glimmerings. When you work with reason, you don't get erudition. So it's just more difficult than the other ones. It's annoying. But I like that as a theme, because basically the way that you get your reason improved is you have to plan it out very meticulously to get it all the way to the top, which I think is appropriate for reason. Like, you don't upgrade your reason by chance. Your reason has to be the product of deliberate effort. So it sort of makes sense thematically in my head. This is one of the reasons I really like this game. There's just a lot of subtleties to it that I think I like to think that they thought this stuff through. And I appreciate that sort of thing. It's just a lot of fun to me. So right now we're just working, trying to keep our funds above 0 so we don't die.